My name is Tom Mink. I'm the publisher of The Howling Pig, and I was the chief party in Mink versus Southers, in which I defended the use of my free speech in The Howling Pig. I was involved with this bill. I'm glad that I'm being able to tell my story in order to get it passed, because I think that what happened to me was something that was awful. I would hate for it to happen to other people, especially people who didn't happen to know somebody at the ACLU and know exactly how to challenge something like this.
Well, the criminal libel statute, in our mind, has always been created a chilling effect on speech. It's an archaic statute. It was enacted in 1883. We're one of 17 states in the country that actually have a statute like this on the books. It's admittedly not used very often because I think it is archaic and is very susceptible to a constitutional challenge. I mean, for example, if you just read some of the language on here, any person who knowingly publishes or disseminates either by a written instrument or a picture or any statement that tends to blacken the memory of one who is dead or to impeach the honesty of one who is alive commits criminal libel. So in this instance, I'm not even sure what, blackening the memory of one who is dead, I'm not even sure what that means. So that in and of itself is vague and renders it constitutionally infirm. And that was the gist of our testimony.
The bill's important to me because I support free speech. And in the case of Tom Mink and Greeley, when it made the papers, that he was charged with a Class 6 felony for a publication that he did lampooning a college professor. Really, it struck me, and I thought, wait a second, this can't be against the law. We have free speech.
It was the end of finals. I was at UNC at the time, and the police came to my mom's house where I was writing a paper and where I'd actually published The Howling Pig because she had internet access. And they knocked on my door, and I was there in my socks, and the police walked in with a warrant and said that they were there to search for evidence of The Howling Pig. First thing I did was I called my friend who was the vice president of the Weld County ACLU, and she got me in touch with Mark Silverstein. I was royally ticked off. I could not stand the fact that this thing had happened, that this was something that could happen. And since the ACLU was willing to go the distance and actually challenge the law itself, I said go for it. At the time, we figured it was going to be a year, maybe 2. But it ended up taking 8 years before the litigation ended with a settlement in my favor. And the law's still there. We never were able to successfully challenge it, but the legislature's now considering repealing it, and that's what I'm working on now.
Only 5 or so states have a similar statute on the books, and decided to go ahead and attempt to just strike it from our law books here in Colorado, and we've survived the first test by getting it out of the Judiciary Committee on a 6-0 vote.
Of course, the public policy group is always looking at areas where there are barriers to civil liberties, and in this instance, one of the core of our mission is to protect freedom of speech and freedom of press. So this is a perfect aligns perfectly with what we're trying to do in the public policy shop.
And I dropped the bill, visited with the chairman of the committee, found that she was supportive of the effort, and knew at that point then, with no opposition, with support of the ACLU and the state attorney general's office, and the story of the guy Tom Mink, who was effectively the victim of this charge, I knew we could get it passed.
In this particular bill, I would encourage folks to telephone their legislators, and so their senator and their representatives, and let them know what this means to them. And I think encouraging a vote in favor. If it's a repeal, would be fantastic. Once it leaves the chamber, it then goes to the governor for a signature, so telephone calls can be made there. So that's with this in particular, but generally, the ACLU Colorado is involved in many, many issues, and many issues that I think affect the daily lives of many folks. Like us on Facebook. If you do that, you will then automatically receive updates and notices of everything that we're involved in. We're also on Twitter, so follow us on Twitter. We have a wonderful ACLU webpage that you can find out what we're doing on a more timely basis. And I would also encourage the public generally, if there is an issue that concerns them that they think raises, the specter of civil rights and civil liberties, to contact us, and we'll follow up with them.